Now part 5 of our special investigative series, Driving While Black Still at Risk.
It has been more than a decade since the infamous Turnpike shooting that put the term racial profiling on the map.
Now 3 of the men scarred by that fateful night speak with us.
Brenda Flanagan's here with the conclusion of our 5-part series. Brenda.
Brenda and Harry, it's been a dozen years since that rainy night around exit 7A when New Jersey State Troopers opened fire on a van. The 4 innocent young men inside that van survived and went on to expose racial profiling.
I live it every day just because, I was shot 6 times.
Those gunshots still scar Danny Reyes' body, constant reminders of the shooting that made racial profiling a household phrase.
This case, if there was a picture in the dictionary about racial profiling, this case would be there.
We was 4 athlete students going to a university, and we got pulled over.
That's when all hell broke loose.
2 state troopers had opened fire, pumped 13 rounds into a van they'd just stopped on the New Jersey Turnpike. Trapped inside, 4 aspiring basketball players, African American and Hispanic.
And that put in my mindset that we was going to die.
Thank God we lived to tell the story, and we've been, together ever since. Just, it changed our lives.
A dozen years later, we're sitting with Reyes, Jermaine Grant, and Keyshawn Moore, 3 of the so-called Jersey 4. They've produced this documentary about New Jersey's most notorious case of racial profiling.
I don't want that to hold me back. I don't want what those troopers did to us to ever hold me back.
They say it's not just the bullets and scars that remain, so does racial profiling. They claim people of color still drive past police at their own risk through many New Jersey towns and along its turnpike.
They say you can crack the blue wall, but you can't break it down. So I still see denial.
That's why they've been watching the latest MY9 News undercover investigation. We hired an African American, a former cop, to drive around northern New Jersey for 4 nights. Police stopped him 3 out of those 4 nights. Then we had a white driver follow the same routine, but he didn't get stopped once.
It's not surprising. It would be surprising if it was the other way around. It's still a big issue. It's still such a relevant story. We definitely have to continue to do our part to let people know that it happens and it's not right.
When I saw the piece on Monday, I was like, wow. And you said it was a 5-part series. I was like, Jesus. I said, we gotta find a way to get there to tell our story.
They also watched our story about 4 young African American men who alleged they were profiled by New Jersey State Troopers.
It hits home. It really does. It hits home. You're very emotional about it because every incident I see like this, it reminds me, takes me right back.
They say investigative reports like ours shine a light on this issue.
It's unfortunate that it still happens today. We have to continue to have shows like this. That's the only way you're going to open certain people's eyes. There's always going to be ignorant people, but sometimes ignorance just comes from lack of education.
Their documentary's never been broadcast before. It's called For Chosen. That's what Reverend Al Sharpton called these profiling victims.
They didn't choose to do it. They seem to be chosen for it.
For Chosen explains how outraged lawyers and civil rights leaders championed the victims' cause, challenged the state police, and finally forced them to admit they profiled motorists on the turnpike.
We had a lot of support from a lot of different people. So I think that helped, for us to say, we have to do our part in this movement. I think it's an educational tool even for law enforcement to learn.
But for Reyes, it's also therapy.
Working on this documentary film has been therapeutic from day one.
The Jersey 4 say police still pull them over, and when they see those lights in their rearview mirror,
I'm scared to death because I never know what's on that officer's mind.
Danny Reyes says since the shooting, police have pulled him over. But when they see his license and they suddenly recognize who he is, they send him on his way. A special screening of the documentary scheduled for later this month. For more information, log on to our website and click the News Extras tab.
Brenda, quick question. Now that the series is over, what's the reaction from the overall public on such a heated topic?
As you'd expect, both positive and negative. Some people thought our report showed profiling is still a problem, while others thought it was just good police work. Most people said they're glad we did these stories. State police still maintain they did not profile the African-American driver whose story we featured in Part 3, and the 3 police departments whose officers stopped our African-American driver also deny that they profiled him.
Brenda, thanks for your reports all week. Now we want to know what you think after seeing our series this week. Has it changed your mind about racial profiling one way or another? Text us at 70377. Remember to give us your name and where you're from. We'll read some of your comments later in the newscast. Standard text message rates do apply. Harry?